Play hard and love big radio podcast. Inspiration on your station with the show broadcast. You don't want to miss it. You gotta listen. Good vibes and stories for you to go the distance. Bringing inspiration, stories that shine. Helping you connect heart and mind align. Live your best life, lift up and soar. Fueled by kumquat energy, we give you more. Play hard and love big.
Welcome to Play Hard and Love Big Radio. My name is Nick Clark, and I'm your host for today's show. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Stand-Up Paddle Company based out of Folsom, California. At Play Hard and Love Big Radio, we're dedicated to bringing you the inspirational people and their stories to help you connect to your center so that you go out and you live your most purposeful and passionate life. And we have a really special guest here today, someone I'm honored to have the opportunity to talk with for an hour. Robert Sturman. Robert Sturman is a world-renowned artist, a lover of life, and a yogi. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. I love that you just reached out, and now I'm in the spotted dog world.
Yeah. What's your dog doing today? Otis, what's he up to?
He is taking some sunshine right now.
Can't say that I blame him. That's something that I want to take some time to talk with you about a little bit more as the show goes on.
Right.
But first of all, I just want to let the listeners get an idea of who you are and what you're passionate about. You're coming to us today from Santa Monica, right?
Yes.
And what is it that you love about that Southern California vibe there?
Southern California, the weather is just gentle, and that's a nice thing. It's mainly just the climate. The climate is, I grew up here, so I'm familiar with it, and it's just a really gentle climate. I mean, you know, you're in Idaho, and it's pretty extreme, which is wonderful, but it takes a getting used to, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's nice to have a little gentle climate. When we moved from Northern California up here, it was not as big of a shift for me. I grew up in Colorado, but my wife, she's a California lady, and so the winters threw her off just a little bit, you know, to say the least.
It takes some muscle.
Yeah,
to really get used to it. And when your blood gets thin, it's very hard to do the extremes.
yeah, that's true. California definitely offers a very special climate. When you were growing up, have you always been an artist? Or how did your life take a turn to doing the things that you're doing right now?
I wasn't always an artist, but I gravitated towards it when I was a teenager because I needed something to cling to try and make sense of the world. So I enrolled in some photography classes over the years, and then it just became something that I created a language for inside of myself to be able to make sense of life to the best of my ability. Because I think beyond being an artist, what the seed for me was being someone that just felt very deeply and needed to be able to manage that. And I just fell in love with the act of creation.
That's so neat. And how long have you been doing yoga for?
Yoga, the first yoga class I did was in 1989, and it took me a very long time to sort of begin to understand what yoga was, but I definitely don't feel like my journey began as a yogi until I was about 30 in 2000, when I went to India and I read a statement by Osho, and it said, to be creative is to be in love with life, that we can only be creative if we love life enough that it's only natural to offer a song here, a poem there, a dance there. And when I read that, that's when my real journey in yoga began, which has absolutely nothing to do with asana, but it began in there because I saw for the first time that we have to be clean to be able to, and the way that we are inside is how things will flow outside. And that statement was the missing link to my education in art, which, because I had been ideologically conditioned to believe that artists had to suffer in order to do great work.
Hmm.
But this statement just was, enjoy your life, take care of yourself, nurture yourself, and let art flow from that place. And when I read that, that was the most important thing that I ever read.
Yeah. Well, what kind of specific shifts did you start seeing in your life and in your art once you started getting into yoga and understanding that principle on a deeper level?
I mean, it takes many years, but I think I went from living a life that was kind of almost unhinged in a way, um, with, there were no rules. There was nothing to, there was no structure. And I think once I started to understand, when I started to come back to myself and listen to my own wisdom, then things started to flow more naturally. Like, for instance, be a kinder person, um, live a life of ahimsa, don't harm anyone. And I think that once I started to get in touch with myself and really begin that path of quieting down, of stillness, then that's when everything started to shift. Because there's a saying that says, what is it about, crimes against wisdom. So once I started to open my mind and heart somehow, then it's almost impossible for me to commit crimes against my own wisdom anymore, like cheating, stealing, lying, all those kinds of things.
Mm. Yeah, it's like uh, in my experience, I've noticed that when I do those things, that's against my heart. It's against my purpose, my intuition. Those things that really keep me connected to something higher. That's when I start to feel off. I'm not as connected to, well, the world, but to other people, my work, and also people can feel that, like the connections that I have with other people and the collaborations that I'm creating and whatnot, just they don't feel as authentic and real and as easeful when I'm making decisions like that, and I think for me, and there was a point where I was like, wait a second, my work and my purpose is more important than these other things that I'm doing. And I would rather focus my intention on being ready and to go out and do the very best that I can in that way. That's what comes up for me when you're saying that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I get that, man. When I took I've known about you and your art for a long time. But just in the last few days here in preparation to speak with you and get to know you, I've took a lot of time going over your website and your even more time going over your Instagram. And oh man, I love the story that you paint with your photography, and then also the words that you use to bring life to your photography as well. It's phenomenal. Can you talk about how you transitioned into photographing yoga and how that whole shift and has created your career as it is now?
I wanted more yoga in my life when I was about, right when after I read that quote. There was I volunteered for a magazine. It was a free yoga magazine called, Yogi Times.
Huh.
And every month they would have a teacher profile. And I volunteered to make the portrait of that teacher once a month. Really make a beautiful, strong portrait and get to know that teacher. and then they would be featured. And I did that because I wanted more yoga in my life. So I figured if I immersed myself in it with my work a little bit, then I would become one of those yoga people that could handle life beautifully and be enlightened and all this stuff I had in my head about what it meant to be a yogi. I knew I needed more superpowers in order to get by in this world. And so that's what drove me to photographing yoga. It's like Van Gogh. He lived with the potato eaters for a year before he painted the masterful painting.
I didn't
So,
know that.
it's kind of like it's something that I've often heard artists do is the best work is the work that is just an expression of the life that you're living. And so then I did that and I looked around and it kind of occurred to me that the yogis were the most beautiful poetic models I had ever seen in the whole history of art. And so I thought, wow, man, I can just, really photograph all of humanity using this language, this poetry of asana to tell this incredibly positive story about human beings all over the world that are really trying to have a better experience in this world. I mean, I think that that's what most of us come to yoga for in the first place, is because we want to improve the quality of our existence. We want to be better people. And that is a beautiful story. As simple as it is, if that's the only story I ever tell in my life, that's fine, because all of humanity is doing it. And from the military to people who are serving life sentences to every type of human being.
Yeah, your art and your photography spans the globe, and you're working with so many different people, and I see that, right? It's a common thread that we all have as yogis to be better people, and I can see that in the people that you're photographing, and also it really brings everything else around the yogi that you're photographing to life. It brings the background to life. It brings everything to life. There's this whole new energy and radiance to a photograph when there's somebody in there that's doing yoga. Like all their energy is getting pushed out into the environment around them. That's what I kind
Yeah,
of get
yoga
from
makes
that.
everything more beautiful
Yeah, it
on
does.
the
I,
inside and in photographs.
yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started practicing and teaching yoga, one of the things that I love to say is that you're gonna leave this class today, and the smells are gonna be smellier, the colors are gonna be brighter, everything is gonna be better. It is like that. It's like everything is illuminated from the work that you're doing internally. Everything externally becomes brighter. I I would love to hear about your experience working in the prisons. Can you tell a little bit about that in the correctional departments?
Sure. I think that early on it really felt like it was I started to go into prisons about 14 years ago. And one of the things that was so great about it at the time is because that was the beginning of me opening up to photographing all all life, doing this practice, because it was yoga was portrayed as a very homogenous culture, and I wanted to tell a story of a vast culture of the whole world. And so this was so extreme, from the skinny, whatever classic looking type of yoga model on the cover of Yoga Journal. This was such an extreme difference, juxtaposition. And so I was drawn to that at first to balance out everything else. And then I just realized also that yoga is such a good idea for everyone, really, first responders, people in prison. But going into the prisons made me realize that ultimately what we want to do, something that we all desire, is to be respected, to be seen, to be honored, to be seen, to be, how does it feel when we're ignored, or when we're completely insignificant, or we're forgotten about? So I realized that the camera was really just an excuse to be able to honor people and reflect back to them that they're worthy of being seen. Because when I'm with my camera and in my work and looking at someone, I mean, my only desire is to see their light. And I saw how impactful it was being inside of the prison, because the people I was working with were so excited to be acknowledged, to be seen, and to be celebrated for the light, for what they're doing, for something good that they're doing for themselves. And there's been numerous times where people who were incarcerated, after the class, they would ask me, is there a place where my family can see this? Because I want them to see that I'm trying, that I'm doing something good in here. And every time they would say that, even though, I could send them to the Facebook, and that's about as close as I could get, or to the Prison Yoga Project Instagram page, but it would break my heart completely to ask, for someone to ask. There's something so beautiful about that, and it helps me to remember the sacredness of the camera that I'm holding, and the power that it has to first of all reflect back to people that they're worthy of being, that they belong here, that they're okay, that they're beautiful. And then second of all, that camera has the potential to really change the world. A photograph is an idea. And when that idea goes into the culture and it's done, there's an emotional texture to that photograph, then it really has the possibility of shifting perceptions. Because when I first started to go into the prisons, not a lot of people had heard that yoga and meditation were going on in the prison system. But then what happens is enough people see that story being told and feel it, and eventually it does become something that we're used to, like yoga in the military.
So you said that was about 15 years ago you started doing that?
Yeah.
And so now, from what you're hearing and experiencing, are you seeing that it's becoming more of a relevant thing that's being done inside of correctional facilities, prisons, and the military, and all these different areas?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Things take time, because at first it's very hard. It's challenging. You're up against a lot of red tape. And then eventually it does. Like, for instance, we got the Department of Justice approved um, a, a someone in uniform in the military practicing yoga to be on the cover of Yoga Journal.
Right.
So that was a huge step. Um, I think that, at first it's scary. It's going to rock the world, and people don't want to embrace it. But then eventually it does. It becomes cool. Like when I first photographed cops doing yoga and meditation, I think that some of the departments were, well, one in particular was not owning it and proud of it. And I think that eventually it's something that they can be very proud of, because, I mean, I think most people will agree that police officers should be taking care of themselves to be able to make good decisions and also deal with the immense challenges that they have in their profession, and just do anything for self-care to be able to do a better job, and to not kill themselves. I mean, they have a very high suicide rate.
Yeah, certainly any of those professions, police, fire, military, they see things that people on the streets don't commonly see. And I think probably for generations, at least from my understanding, for generations, the way that they dealt with those things was through unhealthy means that didn't allow them to process it and move it out of their body, but actually harbored those emotions and experiences deeper inside of their body, which impacted them long term, in a more serious way. Right, lifting to creating more suicides and all the different things that come with it. And so now for departments and people within those departments and those areas to be doing the yoga and the meditation and just like living in a way of life that is in accordance with who they are as an individual and what they believe in and what their purpose is in the world. It seems to be a much healthier outlet, and I think that they should be acknowledged for that and proud of that. But I can see how like a change of culture and whatnot that takes time, and
Oh,
it takes courage, right? It takes courage for people to make a paradigm shift like that.
it does. And getting used to that, it just becomes the new normal. We're resistant to, they were resistant to cars.
Right.
They had horses, and they're resistant to, I should say we, because human beings, resistant to the telephone.
Sure. There's a lot that people are resistant to, and then uh, I think that ultimately what happens is that we warm up to the idea once they somehow make a difference for us or they make a difference for someone else, and then it's like, oh, maybe I'll be interested in learning a little bit more about that too. So when you started working with the military and taking some photos of them, well, how long ago was that? Was that about the same time frame, or was it a little later on?
No, it was about the same time frame, and actually, I almost think, yeah, it was exactly the same time frame.
Okay.
And a woman showed up at a shoot. Are you a veteran?
I am not. No.
Okay. A woman showed up a shoot, and she asked if she could wear her uniform. She was in the army, and I thought, oh, that's sure, why not? I don't. It's your shoot. That sounds neat. I grew up in the city, and I don't have a lot of military interaction experience. So it's always been neat to me. Like, I know I can think of a better word, cool. I don't know, but it was so different
Hmm.
because it was, we were so far removed from it. And I almost feel guilty about that. But so I was drawn to it. And then it was right about the beginning of social media when it started to really bloom. And so we did this portfolio of work in New York, and she's wearing her uniform. And then I told her story and shared it online, and it was so well received. And then different um, military yoga organizations contacted me asking me if they could use the images for brochures, and that's when I started to realize how powerful ideas are with photographs. It's like I took this thing, I just pushed some buttons, you know and and uh and then put these photographs out of this idea, and then it was like the world was very hungry for
Hmm.
it. And I realized how powerful and how much good photographs can do for our world.
And you at that point taking photos of this woman in the military, and then as you got deeper into the culture and started to understand the culture a little bit more, did you find that at that point that there was quite a few people that were actually doing yoga that maybe
Yeah, there
that
were
we didn't
different
know about?
there were different yeah, that's the whole world started to open up, and those subcultures started to open up to me because I think they saw me as the guy that photographed more of the outliers of our society.
Oh, got
um,
it.
and so people would start to come to me for with those kinds of ideas. And people with breast cancer, I did a whole campaign for breast cancer awareness. and I did extended it out, went to Africa and worked closely with Africa Yoga Project. And yeah, it just became very exciting to me, because when I was younger, I I just very much respected the magazine National Geographic, but I never really wanted to be a National Geographic photographer, or even knew how to even do something like that. But then I realized that National Geographic, that idea could meet yoga somehow, photographing Maasai warriors at the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro. So that was just extremely interesting to me, to be able to tell a global story.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, those pictures are amazing with the Africa Yoga Project and people teaching the kids and kids teaching each other. The one that I'm remembering right now is a picture of these kids sitting across from each other and they're looking into each other's eyes, and each one of them has a hand on the other's heart.
Yeah,
My like
yeah,
eyes just started to tear up, Robert, when I saw that.
that's in well, because it's very sad. I mean, it's in an orphanage, so I mean, I would imagine they lost their parents, um, uh, and yeah, they're just learning the tools to, at a young age, to be prepared for what inevitably will be a sometimes difficult existence.
Mm, yeah. I see those pictures and they just draw out emotion. It's amazing. I think about like that one specific picture and just relationship to what we do as like a yoga studio. We teach teachers and constantly are working with students to give them these tools, right? That you're showcasing in different environments and demographics across the world. But even those little tools, like looking into someone's eyes or making connection with another human being, can get lost in our everyday life here in the Western world, where it seems like we have everything. Seems like, in comparison to some people, we have all the things that we need, but yet it's almost like a lot of times the busyness, the work, the pressure of life can suck that out of us, and it takes people away from their humanity.
Yeah,
And so when I see that, it reminds me of training programs when we just have people look into each other's eyes, and then there's this like flood of emotion and release, that they're actually being seen, like you're saying that you provide with your photos, but they're being seen and they're being heard and they're connected in a way that they haven't been in a while. It's just phenomenal how human connection can draw
that,
that out.
that's cool, and we can't forget it. It's that you mentioned that in trainings and on retreats, and you live more in the country, and that simplicity, that human intimacy, and that, rather than, we're so busy with being advanced, that we're much more primitive than we've ever been, probably.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I know. I think that when I look back, I think all the training, the work that I do, right, is to help people bring that into their everyday life. That's what's happened for me. It's like when I wake up in the morning, I really take the time to connect with my family and slow down and take a deep breath and look outside and like really get grounded, and do those. But it's something that I lost for a long time, and I know a lot of people have lost that too, no matter where they are.
Yeah. And you longed for it when you lost it.
Oh my gosh. And I didn't know that I longed for it in a way. Like it's like I was just so busy doing what I was doing or trying to chase success or whatnot, that I didn't know what was missing until it was introduced to me. And I had that experience last night, Robert, when I'm looking at your photos again. I had that experience just looking through your art. And the one specific one that I was looking at was pictures of Otis. Um, I wanted you to tell us a little bit about Otis in a second, but I want actually probably be better probably to preface my story. But I was like, oh my gosh, I have these two amazing dogs that are giving their whole life to me, and I have all these kids and all these things going on. But how often do I just really slow down, get on their level, and connect with these dogs? But yeah, your photos bring out amazing emotion. Um, but before we get to Otis, because I know I kind of sidetracked there. Sorry about that. Uh, but you and can you talk about the Grammy? art that you did? That's something that's really been special for you, and I'd like to hear about how that experience happened for you.
You know, it really it it seems like another lifetime, that's for sure, because it was in 2005, and that was back when I did a process of photography that was all done with a Polaroid camera. So it was very instant, painterly quality type of photograph. And that was just, it was just a taste of a whole different world than where I evolved into. But
Mm.
it was a triumphant moment because they wanted their music cares department that helps artists in need wanted a donation from me. And so I said yes, and I walked in, and they gave me a meeting. They introduced me to people, and they didn't think much of it. They just loved my Cuba work, and this is pre-yoga stuff. And I remember that they had this whole wall with like the official artist every year of, and I just looked at all the official artworks because they used that artwork to represent the whole Grammys of that year. And they were well-known artists, a lot of them. And I was just this guy that was making a donation, and they didn't know who I was or anything, but they loved my work. And then I just looked at all these posters, and I want to do this. I said, why is it just of the gramophone?
Hmm.
Why isn't it about the musician? And so I think out of courtesy, they gave me, like, they said, okay, here's a Grammy to go photograph and do whatever you do. And so I did it, and I worked really hard to make the most masterful work of art. And it's of this Cuban musician with a guitar slung over his shoulder, and he's carrying the Grammy home, like just with pride, and just a poetic, just moving forward. And so I did the photograph and then mocked up the poster for him and just spelled it out. And they had no intention of making me their artist, but eventually one thing led to another, and they called me and asked me if I'd like to be their official artist for that. And so me, that just showed me that perseverance is really valuable to really, I don't think we can think everything into existence, but I put my mind and my heart to this, and it happened.
Hmm.
And it was a golden moment in my career. And then eventually, Polaroid went out of business, and so I had to reinvent myself, and that's when I started to need these yoga superpowers.
Gotcha. Polaroid went out of business, and then you had to reinvent yourself with the yoga superpowers.
That's right. I mean, I've never thought of it that way, but that's really what it was. I wanted superpowers, and so that's what drew me to yoga and meditation. I figured if I did that, then I'd be able to handle anything. But there's a
Yeah.
lot more to it.
Yeah. Well, it served you well. We talked about a little bit about outlier communities that you've photographed and whatnot. What are the outlier communities that you're working on now? Are there any new ones that are kind of appearing for you, or is it just kind of like gradually occurring in
You
that
know,
way?
I don't know how all that's going to unfold. I continue to go into prisons and have worked a lot in federal prisons, maximum securities in Mexico.
Yeah.
And that's definitely some serious outlier community.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm not, I guess the most, well, is this a good time to bridge into Otis?
This is such a great time. Let's do it. Yeah.
Because I mean, if anyone's an outlier, it's him. He's an outlier because. So let me explain to the viewers. My dog Otis is an animal testing survivor, which means that he was bred in a facility that breeds thousands of dogs with one purpose, and that's to go to pharmaceutical companies and all kinds of science, and a lot of it has been proven to be very outdated science, um, to be tested on. And usually after they test tobacco, they test every drug, they test makeup, um, cleaning products, everything is tested on for the most part. And then they usually euthanize the dogs when they're done with them. And this happens to thousands and thousands of dogs. And just in the United States alone, there's over 65,000 dogs in laboratories being tested on right now. And that's just in the US. So I'd always wanted to do something for animals, and I never knew how to really integrate my work into it. And this, I could make donations and do volunteer to do some shoots and donate the proceeds to the organizations, but I really wanted to use my craft. And then this dog comes into my life, who's just a strikingly handsome dog, like unbelievably. I've never used the word handsome, but I think I'd call him handsome like 50 times a day. Ridiculous. And so he is the face of animal testing. And so I was able to expand my work into raising awareness about choosing cruelty-free products by having this beautiful dog that is can be the face of animal testing. So now he's an ambassador for different companies that choose kindness over cruelty, and that's what we're promoting.
Yeah, he is a handsome dog. And I mean, really handsome. And one of the things I mentioned a little bit earlier about getting on the level, can you talk a little bit about that and how that shift in your mind helped you opened up to different ways of photographs, but also connection with people and animals?
Well, the thing is that one of the themes of my work is to never look down on others. And you could just take those words and you never think of what it literally means as a photographer. And what that means is to never look down on anyone with your camera so that you're above them photographing them. Because what that does is makes them look small. So one of the things that I learned over the years is that when we go on others' level or even below them a little bit to photograph them, they look like giants. They look like they look equal. And so when you take the time to see another on their level as an equal and not look down on them, then the whole world changes. Then they feel it, and it is an act of respect. And when people feel seen, they light up, and it changes us as well as the seer. When we see others with respect, they feel seen.
Yeah, no, in that TED Talk, you show a picture of Otis from up above, and then you show it down low, and it's just this magnificent shift, and then this handsome dog, and it's like he just like comes to life, and well, you mentioned in the form that you filled out, like you're curious about the dog that is looking at the yogi in the face for Spotted Dog. He's
that's all about that dog.
Yeah, that's Bandit. Bandit's a rescue dog that my wife and I rescued. He's the namesake of Spotted Dog Yoga, and we rescued him. And he's a blue heeler, and he's still alive. He's 14, and one of the things that he taught Katie and I, and hence we named our podcast after, is that if you play hard, you go out in the world, you play hard, you're passionate, you put yourself 100% into things, you're full of purpose, you're full of zest, you run, you work out, you do yoga, whatever it is that you do, that if you do that, and then ultimately you'll love big, you'll have more gratitude, you'll have more compassion, you'll have more connection, like the way that a dog is, like the playful nature of a dog and the being that they are and what they provide to people and the earth. Why do you see is that it's through Otis, your experience with Otis? Why do you see that this is such an important mission for humanity?
I mean, it just makes no sense to me how we take advantage of others. And I just feel like kindness, we're so lost without kindness. I can't really say how this is going to affect humanity on a broader scale, but one person at a time that gets to meet him, that can see into his eyes, that there's a being in there, and there's kindness. I just think that we all, we've just we're not the gentlest. We're no, we're there's a lot of trouble. And I mean, I can't make some grandiose statement about how it's truly going to change the world. We can just help our neighborhood, to inspire our neighborhood to make kinder choices. And that's another reason why, you put me into a little bit of an important corner here. That it's not all peaches and cream. There's a tremendous amount of suffering. And I think that that's one of the benefits of, that's why I need this practice so much, because it's once you start to care, like, and really let that willingness to care for life in, you have to have the tools to be able to process it, and to be able to go through, and to want to wake up tomorrow inspired to bring joy and see light in this world. So that was an important question.
Well, and I guess what I'm getting from you is like when I see the darkness that's in the world, right?
Yeah.
That it can be easy to kind of shut down, right?
Right.
And like,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, just and to run from it, or to not feel inspired, or to feel like that we're, as a humanity, that we're failing,
That's where we need the tools,
Right.
because and then, as we said, we started this podcast, we both were discussing how you reach a point where you can't pretend anymore. You can't hide and compartmentalize as much, as you're not a master of that anymore. You have to do good, and you have to, once you see, and there's no hiding. So that's where we need the tools to be able to deal, because in the past, I could, like, for instance, I mean, I'll give you an example. In the past, I could eat a cheese pizza, and I had heard that they take the cows from they make, it's factory farming, and what they do to the cows, and they rip them away from the baby doesn't get the milk, and just a horrific industry. And there was a long period where I could be in the middle, where I didn't wasn't like, I could still participate in harming and compartmentalize it, and then it reaches something shifted where it's just impossible. There's no way I could do that. I can't lie anymore. That's what I meant earlier when I said that, when I was talking about that.
Yeah. No, I get that. I agree with you. I think it's so yeah, once you see one way and you're aware of how you can do it a different way, there's no turning back,
Yeah.
And like I I do. I always think about dogs. Like dogs, I'm so inspired by because they're just so present
Yeah.
and aware. And when I take the time to be with, be with my animals and get down on their level and pet them and connect with them and whatnot, like it's almost like I forget about all the other things that are happening in the world, and I'm brought into the present. They get me present. And when I'm present, I really can connect to what's important the most to me, and I can really act upon that. Um, and so I actually was just thinking about that reel, Robert. It's pretty recent, I think, that you put it up of Otis and he's rolling in the sidewalk in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
I forgot what your caption was of that, or the story. It was something like, he'll take the time to play anywhere.
I forget what it said, but I don't think it needed to say anything.
No, I mean, that
Oh
was
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, for this, I think it was something. It was just as simple that a spontaneous moment of celebrating life from an animal testing survivor.
Yeah, totally. Like you can go through the hell, you can go through the hardest of things, and also, and once you go through there, there's still an opportunity to live, and to live with zest and love and life. And I can see that in Otis. And from someone who's not like directly, say, involved with the initiative that you're working on with him and testing and whatnot like that, how can people help?
Well, he's an ambassador for a company called Ecos Cleans, which has hundreds of household cleaning products. Um, I'm not sure the exact amount, but everything. And what you do is you don't want to. You could start small because that's when the box opens, the whole world opens. But just choose kinder products, like for instance, seventh generation, all those products you've seen at Whole Foods for cleaning, and you look for a rabbit on the back of the bottle, and that means it hasn't been tested on animals. It's
Hmm.
cruelty free.
Okay.
And that's an immediate way to help. Is Windex, all those companies are like, oh, I wonder if this or gives them an eye infection. I wonder if this makes them blind. I mean, come on,
Hmm.
come on.
Got it. Yeah, I saw that there's a few posts that you put up, like of like Clorox and different
Yeah.
things. I mean, I can't even believe it. I mean, I believe it. I get it. I know it, but it seems like it's an outdated process, and there'd be better ways to test these things. Um, you're probably getting ready to go do some shoots, and some point. Where are you headed next in the country, man?
No, I'm going to Florida. I don't travel as much as I used to, but I'm going to Florida, and it's an interesting thing because I'm actually going to be honored by Connected Warriors, which was one of the first military yoga projects that I worked with, and they're just very kind to acknowledge the impact that my work has had upon the military community, which is so crazy to me because when I was a student at the Art Academy, I never in a million years would imagine that I would be hanging out with soldiers and and my work would make an impact.
Yeah, I know it's so neat to see you on ships and, um, geez, like on the beach with Dan Nevins, a good buddy with Dan Nevins. Those pictures of him are some of my favorite. Just amazing seeing him do that with his prosthetics and handstands without his prosthetics, and just that there's an ultimate respect for our military there. That's really neat that you get to work with them like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us on this show today, Robert. And it's really nice that I've had an opportunity to build a friendship with you in this way, and that we're able to connect in this way. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our viewers moving forward that you think that may be valuable for them beyond what we've spoken about today, or something you'd like to reemphasize?
I think that, well, we covered important things. I mean, just choose cruelty free products and remember Otis. And also to never look down on anyone. And when you have your phone is always going to be with you for forever. Most likely, it's always going to be. It's going to become part of our bodies, and there's these brilliant cameras inside of these phones. And every time we make a photograph, it's an opportunity to complement life, to celebrate life, to slow down, and just honor the world that we live in and the people that and animals that we share this world with. And even when if you're photographing your child, your cat, your dog, just try going down on the floor and making a photograph of them even a little bit below them and see what happens. You'll never see the world the same.
I love that. I love it. You know, it's interesting because I've always, like, I had this strange mindset or blockage around always pulling my phone out to take a picture. I don't know what it is. Maybe that, like, I don't want my kids to see me on my phone all the time or whatever. And that, I don't know, something internally I need to work on. But I think that having this conversation with you is reminding me of, wow, the importance of actually taking a great photo. As my kids, especially when I get down at their level and I take a photo of the three of them, whether they're smiling or sticking their tongue out or making some kind of like goofy face, it lights them up, and then they want to do it too. They want my phone to go take camp pictures and videos and things like that. It really does bring them to life. And so thank you for that reminder. I really appreciate that. And it reminds me to get down low and speak to them eye to eye. Same with my dogs, and to just treat people as equals in this amazing world, because we have a common thread and we are connected.
And we are equals.
You got it, Robert. Well, hey everyone, thank you for joining us for this special edition of Play Hard and Love Big Radio, the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Stand-Up Paddleboard Company in Folsom, California. At Play Hard and Love Big Radio, we're dedicated to bringing you the inspirational people and their stories to help you connect to your center so that you go out and you live your most purposeful and passionate life. And today, Robert Sturman, you have done just that, and we are so grateful for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being interested.
I'm super interested. I can't wait to see more of the work that you're doing and to hear about your stories. I'm going to make sure that for the listeners that we put all the information in the show notes to get a hold of you and to follow you on your Instagram and Otis's Instagram. Super great Instagram profiles that'll get you hooked, and you'll get on there for hours just looking at all the great stuff and stories that they're telling and the purpose they're behind. So thank you everyone for checking out the show. Share the show, rate the show, let us know what you think, and come back and see us again sometime soon. See you. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Play hard and love big radio podcast. Inspiration on your station with the show broadcast. You don't want to miss it. You got to listen. Good vibes and stories for you to go the distance. Bringing inspiration, stories that shine. Helping you connect heart and mind aligned. Live your best life, lift up and soar. Feel by come quiet energy, we give you more. Play hard and love